This video I'll be graphing a piecewise function. I noticed there was a lot of questions about them, graphing these. And the piecewise function we have here, we have y equals our fx equals all this stuff, and probably looks rather familiar to you. So what I'm going to do is just kind of go through the process over here while I plot along over here. Now, the first function we have we want to graph is y equals negative 0.5x minus 7 if x is less than or equal to negative 2. Now you want to always start your first point here at your spot where the function changes. So it's going to change at negative 2 from this one to our next one. So we need to plug in x equals negative 2. And when we do that, we get y equals negative 0.5 times negative 2 minus 7. Negative 0.5 times negative 2 is 1, minus 7 is negative 6. So I want to plot, and I mean to put that parentheses there, I want to plot the point x is negative 2 and y is negative 6. Now one thing I want to go ahead and mention here, I'm not going to plot the graph on this, on my paper on the right side, but if I was to, x less than or equal to negative 2 means if this is at x equals negative 2, it's only on the left, which means the line is going to look something like this. It can go all the way to the left, but it's going to stop at negative 2. So I need to use this graphing tool that's only one direction. So I select that, and then I start by plotting x is negative 2 and y is negative 6. And I'm going to leave that alone for a second because this is a line. We know to graph a line we need one more point. And all you have to do is plug in another number for x that's over here to the left of negative 2, less than negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, whatever, those will all work. So I'm going to choose negative 3 just because it's the next thing. And when we do that, we get y equals negative 0.5 times negative 3 minus 7. The negative 0.5 times negative 3 gives 1.5. Minus 7 is negative 5.5. So another point we can plot here is negative 3 comma negative 5.5. So I go to my graph here, x is negative 3 is right here, and negative 5.5, you'll notice that this one allows me to put it in the middle, so I can just plot it there. Now that line is done. You see it's gone off forever. There's not anything stopping it, so it's going to work. Now we want to move on to the second line. The second line is y equals negative 1. So this is the first one. Moving down to the second one, y equals negative 1 if negative 2 is less than x is less than or equal to 4. Now when we graph this, we also have to think about the graphing tool right away. So it's going to be stuck between x is negative 2, so it's going to start here somewhere, and it's going to end at x equals 4. So when we graph the next one, it's going to stop both ways, which means the line tool we have to use next for the middle part is this one, the one that has just a line segment. Now what's really nice about this one is when we have y equals a number, that is just a horizontal line. There's no slope. So we don't have to go through and plug in anything really, we just need to plot the points. At y equals negative 1, at the two endpoints x equals -2 and x equals 4. Right, so we're talking about plotting the left one and the right one. So when you choose this graphing tool, you always have to plot the left and the right. So we go to x equals -2. We want to plot y equals -1, which is right here. Now if we go over to x equals 4, we also want to plot at y equals -1. That'll give us our horizontal line. And as you can see, it looks, just like we would think a horizontal line would look. Now the third and last one, it's going to be more like the first one. We have to graph y equals 1.5x plus 5 if x is greater than 4. But you're just going to follow the same pattern as the first one now. It's only going to be graphed over here. We're going to start at x equals 4, so we got to plug in x equals 4 first. So when we plug in x equals 4, we get y equals, I forgot my negative sign here, -1.5 times 4 plus 5. -1.5 times 4 is -6, plus 5 is -1. So that gives us a point to plot at x equals 4 and y equals -1. Keep in mind it's going to start here, but it's going to go to the left forever, or to the right forever. So it's going to look like a one-sided line again. Now I know when you click on this, it's going to kind of look like it's messing with this, but if you just plot your point at x equals 4 and y equals -1, it'll begin your line. And then we once again want to plot another point like we did with the first one, and keep the same idea in mind. We want to plot to the right. So if we plug in any number to the right of 4, bigger than 4, we can plot that point. So I'm just going to plug in the next one, x equals 5. Okay, y equals -1.5 times 5 plus 5. -1.5 times 5 is -7.5. And then plus 5 is -2.5. So we're going to plot at x is 5 and y equals -2.5. So we go to x equals 5, we go down, this is -1, this is -2, -2.5 is right in the middle. And you should get this shape. Now the last thing to take care of is open and close circles, where you have breaks in the graph. Right, so that's very important. Only breaks in the graph, meaning even though right here at x is 4, we switch from the second to the third line, there's not a break in the graph, so you will not put an open or closed circle there. We just need to do it here. So look at the top, at where x equals -2. On the top one, it is included, because the equal part is included in our first graph, which is the one down here. Included means closed circle. I'm going to put a closed circle there. And then at x equals -2 for the middle one, you'll notice that there's not an equal line under it, which means that it gets an open circle. And that's at the middle line. Right, so this is what our middle line was right here, and it gets an open circle at -2. And this should be it. If you hit submit, see that it marked it all right. Just kind of like talking about some comments here. The main thing, I think people get pretty much the same shape, but you don't get the right answer. If you put that filled in circle and open circle here, it doesn't really matter if you do one or both. If you submit it, it won't give you the full credit. So you got to make sure that you don't put in a circle there, because it's not a break. And the annoying thing is, if you mess up one little part, you got to redo it all. I can't erase that point, so keep that in mind.